So, welcome, we're back. And now we have a new feature match here at the round 4 of this Scandinavian Open tournament. And we have Poya Nobari, who's playing I think it's an Abzan deck. He's playing mostly green and black, and he's splashing white for like sandblasts. And we also got
Joakim Palmkvis on the other side, he's built quite an impressive basically white-blue base Jeskai deck with some splash for red finishers such as Creator's Class. It doesn't look to have that many bombs, but a very solid curve.
Okay. Poya Nobari's list is actually like it's a stable list. He's got Archfiend of Depravity, Douse and Gloom, and
we're underway here, but we can
go through the deck later.
Yep. So tap land for Joakim, who's won the die roll and is on the play. Typhoid Rat from Poya Nobari, which is probably a pretty strong play, I think, because Joakim's deck is I think his card quality is quite inferior to Poya's. So if he doesn't get an early advantage, I think he might have a difficult time just taking this game to the late game.
So you're saying Poya has a lot of better late game than Joakim does?
I think so.
Okay.
Most of the cards that Joakim is running are they're very good on curve, but there are also some filler cards such as the Jeskai Student, Pressure Point.
Okay.
So here we see actually Poya going on the aggressive side, getting the slight card advantage of the Mortal Skull Hunter here.
Yes.
And an attack from Joakim, opting not to outlast this creature, which probably means he has another play.
Yeah, some sort of yes.
Jeskai Infiltrator.
Oh, that's a nice card.
Very nice card. Interestingly enough, it suffers slightly from being the second creature on his side on the board right now.
Yeah.
Seeing as how he will need some kind of trick to get through the Typhoid Rats on the other side.
Yes. Yeah, it's normally like a really good card with you can get a lot of like card advantage.
Absolutely.
Get some morphs, but now it doesn't do as much as Joakim wants.
No. Even then, a 2/3 for 3 is still absolutely serviceable, which is one of the parts of this format that's so spectacular that most of the rares that are very strong are also just good as creatures on curve. So even though it's not fantastic for him like it could be right now, it's still a very serviceable card, especially in a format full of morphs.
Yeah, and Poya's just playing a tap land and passing the turn here. Back to Joakim, who's playing a land, and what's his play here?
I think I see a Seeker of the Way, and then a Cunning Strike, which he can cast the next turn, which would get him through the Typhoid Rats.
Yeah, that's a good plan.
Yeah. So here we see an Outlast as well as this is actually quite a common play with the Iron Knock Bondkin. Usually you play it before your other 2-drops so that you can Outlast it as well as play another 2-drop on turn 4.
Yeah, that's a important thing to do.
Yeah.
And it's good first strike ability against the rat if...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we did see Poya here. He had the option of playing a turn 3 Abzan Ascendancy because I believe he had the
untapped land.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
But he opted not to, probably attempting to get more value out of that down the line.
Yes. With only 2 creatures not doing that much.
No.
So another tap land here.
Oh, there we go. So we may have been mistaken about the untapped land, but
yeah, maybe.
Or perhaps he's just want to make sure that he shores up his blockers. Usually the counter is quite significant, but here I believe even mostly the 1/1 spirits part is the important part, because just providing blockers so that Joakim can't get in for damage will ensure Poya that this game goes longer, which is in his advantage. Also, I believe he has a Brutal Horde Chief in his deck list.
Yes, Poya Nobari has a Brutal Horde Chief and a Archfiend of Depravity as a good like bomby rares.
Yeah, both of them are absolutely spectacular. The Horde Chief being really great in combination with the Abzan Ascendancy, just providing tokens for all the creatures you're playing.
Yes. So now he's blocking here and taking 3 damage due to the Bankin. And he's getting a 1/1 token out of the deal, a spirit token.
Places tapped lands.
Yeah, he didn't have the 5th mana quite yet for his
Cunning Strike.
Cunning Strike.
So here we see a Frostwalker, usually a very serviceable card. It nearly always trades for a card in this format because there are very few abilities on cards that target it. So usually you have to use a spell. But on this particular board, it's very unimpressive.
Yeah, because of all the spirits and because of Abzan Ascendancy.
Precisely.
So.
And there's the Archfiend of Depravity.
Yeah, and Joakim is reading and it says, "Yep, that's a good card."
Yeah. So we'll probably see a suicide attack from the Frostwalker here, because he does have until his own end step to get rid of a creature, so to speak.
Right.
But once he goes to his end step, he'll have to sacrifice down to only 2 creatures.
So yeah, precisely. So is he going to Cunning Strike something here? Is he going to Cunning Strike the Rat, or does he want to try to get the Archfiend as well?
I think probably he's trying to get the Archfiend through first strike damage.
Yeah, I don't think there's no way Poya is going to block that Bonkin now.
No.
That seems like a very risky play.
Absolutely.
Because it's so many things that can go wrong. But he's thinking.
So
I think my guess is just that he puts the 1/1 in the Frostwalker.
Yeah. It takes another 3. So he doesn't have to sacrifice any creatures here, but really that was not a trade that was worth making.
Yeah, it's getting a little bit of value of Abzan Ascendancy.
Yeah. So we see either a Rugged Highland or fetch drawn. Is he splashing for any red cards?
Poya Nobari he's not splashing. He's just splashing white for some sandblasts.
Okay.
So maybe he wants that.
Alright, so three very strong rares,
Okay.
or rather 2 bomb rares and 1 fairly strong rare on the board for Poya Nobari right now. I think Joakim Palmkvis is going to need something very spectacular to dig his way out of this one.
Yes, so the Brutal Horde Chief, it says that you can choose if your opponent, how he's blocking.
Yeah.
Can you also choose that he's not blocking at all?
No, you have to choose all. I believe the text says that all your opponent's creatures has to block this turn if able, and you choose how. But on this board, that could probably just mean that you put everyone on the Death Toucher or on a Spirit Token and get through with massive damage. It's also incredibly hard to raise when your opponent is draining you for 3-4 every time they attack.
So we probably see like all in next turn.
Yeah,
something like that.
Most likely.
Poya Nobari playing another bear 2/2 creature.
Yeah.
Heading to the board. So what's his play now, Joakim? He didn't Cunning Strike, right?
No. I believe that if he can keep up mana so that he can Cunning Strike the creature that Poya forces blocks on the next turn, then he can maybe eat the Horde Chief with the first striker. Yeah,
probably.
If he does risk the Horde Chief in combat, that's
yes,
not all too likely.
That's he wants to like destroy the combat math a bit there.
Yeah. And he can't play any additional creatures because, again, the Archfiend is... So he's losing on multiple axes here.
Yeah, he's just passing the turn here.
So we see land from Poya, I believe he has just lands in hand.
So what's Poya thinking about here is he just... he can have a lot of stuff here. He can have Sandblast and Whisk Away are probably
Yeah.
like the most
I-
common cards.
Last turn, the Archfiend got through without getting Whisk Away or Sandblasted,
Yes.
which is fairly relevant.
Yeah. So the chances are there's nothing going to happen this time as well. So now he will swing for 5. Does the life drain trigger even though the Horde Chief is not attacking?
Yes.
Okay.
Whenever any creatures attacks. So, so there's a gain land. So he is playing just. Are we sure he's not splashing for anything?
I think I should see if I should just check if he's splashing for something red. I don't see anything.
I do see a Dune Blast in his
Yep.
list as well. So Poya Nobari really with a strong Abzan deck here.
He uses his rares.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
It could be that he's playing it just for the life gain. Also, it allows him to activate the Horde Chief, with the red mana, which
Yes, that is probably why he's playing that.
So he can already do it with the white mana he has available, but perhaps the life gain coupled with the ability to activate the Horde Chief is enough for him.
There's the answer. So, what's Joakim's going to do here?
So I believe he has a Feat of Resistance in hand.
Yeah, that can. Yeah, the problem is the Archfiend.
Yes. Yeah, there and even removal spells won't really cut it here because of the Abzan Ascendancy.
Mm-hmm.
I would actually be very surprised to see Joakim pull his way out of this one.
Yes. So now a little bit of a desperation attack, isn't
Yes,
it?
probably. So we saw Feat, we saw Cunning Strike, as well as a Wandering Champion, I believe.
Yeah.
And there's one is that an Ojitai, I believe? No, that's a Sage High Harrier.
Mm-hmm.
So he does have a 1/5 blocker, but that still doesn't block the Archfiend of Depravity.
So is the strategy here just to get rid of one of your own creature so he can play another one? Because of the Archfiend, I mean.
Yes, but the creatures he would be playing aren't significantly better than the ones he has on board right now. They're actually fairly comparable.
So he's just doing this a little bit like taking care of sort of Poya Nobari's creatures, but Poya's getting tokens as well. So
yeah, and it's worth to note those tokens are flying, so they can get through and drain with the Brutal Horde Chief trigger.
So they're actually like good 2/1 flyers.
Yes.
Yes. So this can't be
Yeah, so he's
a much longer game here.
Yeah, so he's pondering playing the Sage High Harrier. I don't believe this game will be. There we go. He scoops it up, and we're going into game 2.
Okay.
So let's check through the sideboards real quickly. Welcome back. Felix will get those names sorted out for you pretty quickly. And
yes, and my name is Rickard. So, what do we have here? Poya's list is actually like a really nice, as we said, Archfiend of Depravity, Brutal Horde Chief, and we haven't seen that Doom Blast, one of the premium rares from Council Top here.
One of the best rares in the entire set, assuming you can cast it, obviously.
Yes.
I see a very powerful but fairly situational card in Joakim's sideboard here, Arc Bond, which could clean up a very large amount of complex board states, but it's not that great against the Abzan Ascendancy.
I see something quite interesting here. I don't know. I haven't played that much of this limited format, but he has a Destructor Dragon, which is in the sideboard.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think there are his curve is already kind of I mean, he already has some sort of mana sinks. Most of the mana sinks in this format, as we've previously said, are also morphs, which you can play on turn 3.
Yes.
And I think that out of the uncommon dragon cycle, you will play those in sealed, absolutely, because they're dragons. If you need some kind of top end, but usually that's not the case. Usually shoring up the rest of the game is the problem, because most people open some sort of powerful rare in this format. And Destructor Dragon, the green one, I believe, is
yeah, it's a moldering effect. You destroy a non-creature permanent.
Exactly. I don't think that's. I mean, it does have some sort of interesting interactions with both the Ascendancy as well as the Dune Blast he's playing. But I don't think it's. I think it's correct for him not to main deck that card.
Okay.
Usually 6-drops are quite clunky to cast.
But usually don't you play a card like Destructive Dragon? Because for me, which I've been playing like older sealed formats, a 4/4 flying creature for 6 is almost always good.
Yes, and that's probably still the case. But again, you don't have to spend all of those slots in your deck on.
Yeah.
I mean, if you most of these just vanilla morphs are actually quite comparable to most of the 6-drops in this format. If you look at a card like Tusk Colossodon, which is kind of close to the card Valpango Goliath, which was played in Heroes block. Neither of those cards saw very much play, even though they're fairly large for their mana cost. Because, quite frankly, with the recent changes to how Limited is designed for the last few blocks, most cards are in sort of modal design where you can bestow them or morph them earlier.
That's a good point. So probably he has all his 6-drops he needs or something.
Yeah,
I mean, or he has his mana synced his needs.
Precisely. So he already has a very powerful late game with the 3 rares we saw this game as well as the Doom Blast.
Okay.
So I believe he still has places to put his mana and just kind of wants to get there.
So does he have anything to sideboard otherwise? I'm not really sure.
Right, here we go again. I don't believe Joakim has that many sideboard options either. His deck is fairly tightly constructed, so I don't believe he has that much room for
taking in something.
Again, we see the turn 1 Typhoid Rat's Hair, which is actually a very good play for Poya. It buys him a significant amount of time.
Yeah, it almost trades like for a greater card cost.
Yeah.
Like for this, for example. But now he's getting in here. He's probably playing a bear or something.
Yeah. Well, Sultai Emissary. A card that seems fairly... doesn't seem very, very strong. But it is actually quite potent. It has a lot of tiny interactions. We see in his hand, I believe he has a swarm of bloodflies, where you can get the double trigger from the Emissary. And there are many minor interactions like that. And just getting a jump out of your 2/2 for 2 is spectacular.
But he's already jumping that away. He doesn't want to wait on the flyer. And here comes
the Sidestep Outcast with a K on it.
I'm not really sure why. It has a K, but
all right.
K as in not flying.
Yeah. So Sidestep Outcast, one of the, if not the best common in Fate Reforged. Usually, you almost always use the second mode, which places the 1/1 flyer into play. You can also choose to play it as a 3/2.
But that's not a common thing to do.
No, the 1/1 flyer is fairly significant, and also a 2/1 trades for a morph, which is again the most common power and toughness in this format.
So it usually trades for a morph, and you get a 1/1 out of the deal. So it's a little bit of card advantage.
Yeah. Also, there are quite a bit of token synergies. We see that Joakim has a War Flare in his main deck, which is the superior version of the Trumpet Blast or Rush of Battle that we saw in Khans. And all right, so here we see so double prowess trigger for the.
And now creatures are heading into the red zone, I suppose. Yes.
So that's a 4/4 with lifelink right now, getting through both those blockers quite easily. Also, we did see the Hero's Blade up top there. Quite a clunky card, but in a deck like Joakim's, where you have a very tight curve and just want to some sort of way to punch through damage in the late game, I think it's a reasonable
Poya is not entirely familiar with that card. What does it do? It's an equipment, right?
Yes, it's an equipment that gives +3/+2. The equipment itself costs 2 mana, and the equip cost is 4.
Okay.
So it's quite slow and quite clunky, but with token synergies, as we just said, he can build his own dragon from the spirit token here.
So the equipments are kind of like a card advantage card, a little bit, but takes a little bit of mana to do so.
And we haven't seen from Poya are efficient removal spells. His creature quality is okay, and he has some bombs, but I haven't seen the Thralls and the Reach of Shadows to really punish the expensive equip costs.
I see he does have a Savage Punch in his deck, but not much else. It's the Doomblast, but that's not really efficient.
No. Precisely. So usually you're scared of the tempo blowout of going to paying 4 mana, essentially time walking yourself to equip on some creature and getting it bounced or destroyed in response. But that in Joakim's deck, where his creatures are so cheap, that doesn't seem to be. Right. So here we see the Will of the Naga.
Yes, tapping down 2 creatures, and they will not untap the next turn.
No.
So he's pushing through a little bit of damage here.
Yeah.
But
do we see a response here? Is that a Dowsing Gloom I see in hand?
Yeah. Dowsing Gloom.
Yes, with the prowess trigger on the stack, killing the making sure he doesn't get a 3/3 line flinker out of the deal.
Yes.
He still has okay attacks. You can trade his manifest for the Sunstep Outcast, but I think that's a trade Poya is very willing to make here.
Yeah. And it's just a land under there.
Yeah, it's pretty much the exception rather than the rule that there are something else under the, especially in sealed, as the sealed decks tend to have a slightly lower creature curve or creature count compared to.
I mean, how many creatures do you have in a deck? Like 10, 15 roughly? Something between those numbers.
In this format, is actually slightly lower because there are several playable creatures which aren't technically creatures, such as Right Into Being and Soul Summons.
Yes,
and
that's a good point.
So interestingly, manifest a mechanic that works against itself in some parts.
Indeed. So Joakim built his own dragon here by the equipment, and now finally Poya can untap his creatures, but the rat is not going well against that flying spirit token.
And really, if he could just kill his creatures right now to pump up that swarm of bloodflies, that would enable him to race or at least trade for the creature.
Yes.
I'm not sure what Joakim has in hand, but I believe he's starting to run out of gas.
Yeah, that's probably true. So he's coming in because why not?
Yeah.
He's not going to block with those creatures.
And we're probably going to see an Outlast from the
04.
Yeah.
And what else? Past the turn.
Yeah.
So
yes, a land, Frostwalker, and I believe a Weave Fate. Really not a card you're happy to play in an aggressive build.
But it's okay in Seal, isn't it?
Absolutely, but you'd rather have a card like Treasure Cruise or Enhanced Awareness, which is more card advantage and
a little bit of a little bit of a upgrade on Dream Fate.
Yeah, Weave Fate.
Weave Fate.
Yeah, so main phases is Weave Fate here, draws 2. That's a Hungering Yeti, a 4/4 with not with flash right now, just a regular 4/4 for 5, as well as one more card which I could not see. Oh, that's an Abzan Falconer. So another flyer here.
But here's Sandblast taking care of that spirit token.
Yeah, as well as growing the swarm of bloodflies.
Yeah. Gaining a life here from the white-red tapland.
Yeah.
And he's playing Frostwalker. Frostwalker not so good with equipment.
No.
Because it will be sacrificed if anything targets it.
Precisely.
And equip does target, unfortunately.
But now he does have a blue permanent in play, which means that Hungering Yeti has flash.
Yeah.
He's tapped that right now, but next turn he could actually not eat anything. None of the creatures on the opposing side is a good block for him.
That's unfortunate. So what's Poya's going to do here? I believe he will head in with a flyer at least.
Yeah. And if usually he would be happy to just. I mean, if Joakim attacks with the Frostwalker next turn, I think he might be happy just trading off the rats to make sure his swarm of bloodflies glows as much as possible.
Yes.
Even though he could eat it with the 1/5. The key part here being trying to get the Swarm of Bloodflies to 6 toughness, which would make it survive Sandblast, which is a common we've seen basically every game in the.
Yes.
feature match
Sandblast
yesterday.
is all over the place.
Yeah, I think it's significantly better than Killshot, and probably a bit better than Whisk Away as well.
Yeah. Because you can do it, play it more aggressively in each turn.
So Poya pointing out just making sure that the equip would actually sacrifice the 4/1 Frostwalker.
Here comes the flyer.
Yeah.
Heading in for 3 damage.
So you could see he was thinking about attacking with the 1/5 as well, but realized that if his opponent had a bounce spell or anything of the like. Oh, here we go. An awkward play here. Marduk Skullhunter is off the top in the late game is a fairly viable reason to just keep lands in your hand for in the late game, because usually there are several high impact cards such as War Flare perhaps, or Channel Harm or removal spells that you really want to cast, and so you keep them around for, until the end of the game.
So that was a result now that when he played a land, he had to discard a relevant spell instead.
Precisely.
But it's not something like you play around. Mostly you're playing your lands, especially when you have such a mana sinking equipment.
Absolutely.
So
we also saw he also did resolve a Weave Fate, so he really wanted to just get all the lands in play that he could.
Yes. So there's the good Falconer, and there's the Savannah Lions.
It's a 3. Precisely. It's a 3/1 Wandering Champion, and you get to Rummage in case you control a blue or red permanent. I believe. Once it hits a player.
It's kind of a loot effect then.
Yeah.
So good creatures on the board here.
Yeah. So Joakim is hellbent right now. He has no cards in hand. I'm not sure what Poya is holding, but I don't. If last turn his best play was a Marduk Skullhunter, I'm not sure how impressive those cards can be.
So he has 2 cards.
A forest and 1 more. I believe that's a land.
Heading in with a flyer once more.
I think that's a plains and a forest.
Okay. So things are looking a little bit better for Joakim, I suppose.
Yeah. It will take him another turn to set up for both the equip as well as the outlast on the Falconer to give it flying.
Yeah.
But once he does that, he has quite a potent air force. Meanwhile, Poya building up his ground defense to make sure that nothing gets through. I think that was a Sage Eye Harrier. I'm not entirely sure. So that's the 1/5 for 5
with flying.
Yeah, which would block the swarm of Bloodflies right now.
Yeah,
as well as be a fairly difficult target to deal with if he equips it up. I'm not entirely sure that was what we saw, but
we'll see. I think he'll
start by outlasting.
And playing.
Yep, there's the Sage Eye Harrier.
Yeah, you don't feel that good when you play like a 1/5 flyer for 5. That's
no. But again, showcasing the power of morphs. Just being a body with a morph is a significant upside. This also happens to be a warrior, which is not relevant on this particular board state, but in draft it's quite a decent filler card.
So next turn, Joakim can sort of build his own Baneslayer Angel.
Yeah.
Or at least a flying big lifelinker. And heading in for a lot of damage.
No, there's no lifelink going on. The Abzan Falconer is the one that grants flying.
Okay.
So he can equip up either of his 2 flyers next turn. But if he equips up the Falconer, he doesn't have great blocks on either of the 2.
So now Poya is heading in with his Skullhunter.
Yeah. So there are two reasons for this. Either he's holding a raid card and wants to get the trigger out of it,
or it's the Doomblast, perhaps.
Yeah, it could be the Doomblast. But in that case, I think he would attack with more, because if he just attacked with everything except or rather, he would play the Doomblast before combat, kill everything but the swarm of bloodflies, and then come in for massive amounts of damage.
Yes, correct. So he's got something else.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
as a Hooting Mandrels. It's a 4/4 with trample. So he chooses to keep up 3 mana, which is
Sandblast mana.
Sandblast mana, Abzan Charm also.
Yeah.
Interestingly here, I don't believe he has anything, but he is certainly representing it to Joakim.
So even though like he can pay more mana to do something, he's representing something. So you just to get Joakim a little bit worried.
Yeah. And I really admire the play, because it takes Joakim several turns, or rather at least an extra turn for each equip he has to make.
Yeah.
So even though he could have very profitable attacks right now, this could be enough to dissuade him from doing so.
So let's see what Joakim will respond to this display. Do you think he will just equip and head in with the flyers?
I think he will equip at least the 1/5, because it would survive Sandblast and alright, never mind. So he just attacks with the Falconer. It's a 3/4 right now, which interestingly is just enough to get through the 3/3 Swarm of Bloodflies.
It's a little bit of scary thing to do against the Bloodflies, but there aren't that much things that can go wrong.
And if he
had,
had,
at least.
if he had attacked with both the creatures and he had Sandblast, he could Sandblast the other creature and then block.
Yeah.
And make it grow. But because he only attacked with one creature, that play was not available to Poya.
Yeah. So that was a nice attack.
Yeah. Also playing around, because Absent Charm, which he also represented, exiles instead of kills, so it does not give a trigger to the Swarm of Bloodflies.
Yeah, that's a good point. Let's see what Poya drew here. It seems like a spell.
So he's contemplating his attacks.
He's getting in with the monkeys.
Yeah. And it's in his interest to make his creatures die right now, to make sure that the Swarm of Bloodflies grows.
So that's probably why he attacked last turn as well. So there were no real raid cards.
And Joakim is all too aware of this, letting the damage through and just blocking the 1/5 on the 4/4.
Yeah. Taking 2 damage. So yeah, what's coming up here next? Pass the turn.
Yeah, I believe both players are just playing from the top of their decks right now. And both players, I believe, only have lands in hand.
Yeah, I think I saw an island drawn here from Joakim.
Yeah, that would be his 8th land, which means he can equip and then re-equip his equipment if he'd like. But that would mean he's tapped out.
Yes. And here's the Sandblast. So interestingly, this is interesting because why didn't they like equip here?
Yeah.
Sort of an interesting play. He should. Yeah, maybe.
So if he equips on the bird right now on the 1/5, it's good. It's big enough to take care of the Swarm of Bloodflies. Yeah. But even without it, it still is able to block either that or the Hooting Mandrels, or at least make them bounce off each other. The intriguing part is that you don't. If you do that, your only other good block is to trade for the Hooting Mandrels probably with one of your grand creatures, which would make the small Bloodflies grow.
Yeah. So yeah, it's very interesting to have this swarm of Bloodflies on the battlefield. It certainly makes combat a little bit strange.
Yeah. And we can't forget, Poya still has all of the bombs we previously mentioned, which we haven't really seen any of.
Yeah.
I believe that Joakim is also drawing live for Crater's Claws.
Yeah, that's right.
So as long as he keeps a ferocious on the board, Crater's Claws would actually be lethal to Poya.
Yeah, that's a good point. And he actually has like a lot of lands. He has some lands in hand, so even without the ferocious, he might just get there.
Yeah.
But he's now
eating the Skull Hunter here, making sure the swarm grows.
Yeah. And
And
what?
that's a spell. I can't quite see what it was.
It looks like a blue creature.
Yeah, perhaps a Jeskai Sage. Let's.
Yeah, that might be. Yeah, we can
We,
see.
we also see he has a Riverweed Aerialist in his deck. As you previously
Yeah.
aforementioned, just a large vanilla creature.
and here
that,
it comes.
yeah, that's the one. So we were speaking about dragons earlier. I think this is better than the uncommon cycle of dragons
Yeah.
from the obviously 4/5, as well as the ability to grow larger. But even this is a fairly mediocre card in draft, though it gains a lot, obviously, in sealed.
In sealed, yeah. It's kind of like a very scary card to like Sandblast.
Yes.
But it's, yeah, I agree. It seems like a lot better than an uncommon dragon.
Yeah.
So here it comes once again from Poya.
Yeah, just pinging for one with the Typhoid Rats.
Yeah.
Joakim doesn't want to make sure that doesn't want to grow that swarm too large. Let's see. Has he used the Sandblast this game? Let's see if he has one.
Not really sure. Poya has 2 in his deck.
Yeah, so Joakim is playing one Sandblast. I can't quite remember if he's used it, but as long as he keeps the Swarm of Bloodflies as on 5 toughness.
Now we're heading into with a boom boom here.
Yeah, all right, here we go. So that's a 7 power flyer coming through. And Poya, just with the land in hand, doesn't really have any great box.
Yeah, he can just take it one turn at least.
Yeah, and he does. And then we re-equip on the 1/5.
Yeah.
So next turn we have 2 lethal attackers in the air and only 1 blocker. And
Yes. So
is that another land? Both players still playing off the top of their decks.
so will we see like a desperation attack here back from Poya with the mandrills and the rats and the ancestor?
I think so. Otherwise, you have to be representing a removal spell, and I think Joakim would not respect such a bluff at this point, because he knows what's in Poya's deck, or at least part of it. He knows he's not favored to go long.
Yeah, and he also still wants to grow that swarm a little bit more. But if he didn't drew anything relevant, he's dead on board.
Yeah. But we already saw a penchant for perhaps bluffing. We're not sure if he actually had the draw on the Sandblast that turn or the turn after. But he was representing a removal spell a few turns earlier that we don't believe he had at the time.
Okay. So he's heading in now with the hooting mandrills, and now the rats are staying back.
Interesting. So
He has to stay back with some creatures, because then Joakim can just take the damage and go all in back.
Interestingly here, Joakim would be dead to become immense. Which could be what Poya was attempting to represent.
The +6/+6 pump card.
Precisely. It usually works very well with trample, but in this case it would not matter, as Joakim was precisely.
Okay, Poya, do you have anything? Joakim asks. It seems he doesn't scoop, so he might just have something here.
Yeah.
And then
And no.
Okay.
There we go. So just playing it out to the end, making sure it doesn't concede. Perhaps trying to find some sort of extra edge for the upcoming game from Joakim.
trying to get some information if Joakim is playing some other cards.
Yeah.
But he didn't have to, so.
No, again, Joakim has not shown him the Crater's Claws yet, which I believe is his major edge going into game 3.
Yes, and Poya hasn't shown the Doomblast either.
Exactly. So, interestingly, I think that there's an argument to be made for Joakim to hold back some of his creatures in hand, or at least some of the mediocre ones, so he doesn't get blown out by Archfiend of Depravity. So that could mean he accidentally plays around Doomblast, or rather not accidentally, but happens to play around Doomblast in the same way.
So the Archfiend are kind of like working against the Doomblast.
In this particular case, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But obviously Joakim's deck is slightly weaker in power level, I believe, than Poya. So he still doesn't have that many reasons to. He can't really afford to play around too many things, especially when you want to go aggressive. You want to make sure to play your cards as quickly as possible for the most part.
So now the last game here, game 3, Poya is going to choose to play or draw? What do you think?
I think he's gonna choose to be on the play,
Yeah.
just to make sure that Joakim isn't on the play. Both of these games we've seen Poya with a turn 1 Typhoid Rat, and that is not a guarantee. That Typhoid Rat has been a major part of the game, the board state for both of these games.
Yeah, he played that rat like turn 1,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
yeah.
And
It stayed until the end.
and he stayed in that. That's not a common thing to see.
No, but it held back several of Joakim's creatures,
Uh-huh.
and even then they had a very tight game. So I think that he wants to just make sure, because he has a superior late game, that
Yeah.
he doesn't get run over in tempo.
Yeah. So generally speaking, is this like a play format, play first format?
I believe that Khans was a first format. I believe that was also the general consensus among the pros in the format. Precisely because of the importance of being the one with untapped mana on turn 5 when you could flip up your morphs.
Yeah.
Now morphs are slightly less prevalent in this format, but even then I still think that Fate Reforged, especially in the draft format, is slightly faster than Khans.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's still true for the sealed format.
Okay, yeah, might be the case. So we're heading back to this game.
Yeah. So we see Jeskai Student in hand, nice 2-drop there, and although all lands, I believe, that's a War Flare as well.
Yeah,
War
so
Flare
there's
and
5 lands.
and 5 lands.
You keep that hand?
I don't think so.
And Joakim agrees with
Yeah.
you.
No, you keeping a 5-land hand in general is very risky, because if you draw an even amount of spells and lands, you're flooding.
Yeah.
So you have to draw not just average, but better than average in order for those hands to get good.
Yeah, I'm okay like keeping some sort of 5-lander hand, of course. If it's like if you have a Archfiend, for example.
Yeah.
If I would have a Morph and Archfiend and 5 lands, I would keep it.
Absolutely. Also, interestingly, if that one creature had been an Abzan Falconer or some sort of mana swing creature, I think he might have been more inclined to keep it.
That's also a good point. And now he quickly took his 6 cards, and that was an okay hand. So here comes a blue-red tap land.
Alright, so Sultai Emissary, the first creature on the board here. No turn 1 Typhoid Rest this time for Poya. And here we see again the power of the Sultai Emissary.
Yeah, that's a good matchup.
Yeah, so, and there are several different interactions like this, which makes this card, which is seemingly fairly weak, into a good filler card at least for this kind of grindy control deck.
So this Sultai creature is a good reason for your opponent not to play 1 toughness creatures.
Yeah. And most of the 2/2s aren't that prevalent in the format. There are a lot more 2/1s than there are, or at least the 2-drops with upside are nearly all of them, such as Leaping Master, for example, or this Wandering Champion, are all 1 toughness creatures.
But now he gets in for 3, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much value he got from that. Obviously, he got a card out of the Skull Hunter from the attack on the Sultai Emissary, but he also opened him up to the loot from Joakim, which he wasn't able to trigger.
Yeah. But Poya has a nice curve here.
Yeah.
2, 3, and 4 drop.
Oh.
And that is the
Brutal Horde Chief. So he plays that pre-combat in order to get the double drain, and now he's definitely going to win this race.
Let's see if Joakim has anything to say about that. Playing his 4th land. Yeah, it's looking really good for Poya here.
Yeah. Is that an Icy Blast? I'm not sure if he had one on his list.
He's passing the turn here, so he's looking to like.
He does not have an Icy Blast in his list.
So Poya is just heading in with 2 worse creatures.
Yeah.
And staying back.
Not risking his bomb for a Sandblast or the like. And he's very happy to take the trade for either one of these creatures.
Yeah. And
so it could be a Weave Fate at the end step here for Joakim. That might be the plan.
That seems like the plan. Let's see if Poya has anything to follow up this turn.
No,
doesn't seem like.
No, he just passes the turn back.
So end of turn, Dream.
Yeah, Weave Fate.
Weave Fate.
Yeah, draws 2. So he's almost equal in cards to Poya right now.
Yeah.
But he's still flooding a bit. That's a Send Step Outcast, which is very nice because the 1/1 can trade with the Sultai Emissary in case he doesn't find a larger creature. But
so what's the play here now? He's playing the Sand Step Outcast.
Now, whenever he doesn't tap out, that enables Poya to attack with the Horde Chief if he'd like to.
Yeah.
So right now he could.
You can attack with both.
Yeah. He again with the Rugged Highland that we spoke of earlier. He can activate his Horde Chief right now and put both of those blockers on the Emissary.
Which would not be the case if it was just a forest, right?
Precisely.
Yeah.
So here we see the deck building choices of Poya and Nobari paying off.
Ah, that's nice.
And
I like it.
Yeah, and the Armament Core now, 6 power and toughness for 5 mana, which is a spectacular turn 6 play right now, but even still.
So he can, when that enters the battlefield, you can put 2 counters,
Yes.
2+1/+1 counters on anything.
So, yeah. So if he places both of those counters on the Emissary like he did right now, Joakim has to use a real card to trade for that, and then Poya still gets a 2/2 out of the deal.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, he's still draining, and Joakim's life total is falling very quickly. And also, as well as, fairly importantly, Poya is also padding his own life total. So there won't be any sort of combo finish with followed up by a Creator's Clause from Joakim.
So here's the resistance.
Feeder resistance.
Giving that outcast protection from black and +1/+1 counter.
Yeah, so we didn't quite see what the manifest was, but it's a 2/2 is still a very real card in this board state, especially with the drain triggers from the Horde Mate.
Yeah.
So I believe that's a Fierce Invocation. Does he have one? Or perhaps it's the Creator's Clause. No, I believe that's the Fierce Invocation. So he has a vanilla 4/4/5.
Yeah, making somewhat of a giant or.
Yeah, and it makes a manifest and puts two +1/+1 counters on it. So it could be possible that he hits some. Oh, so here's a 6-drop, and there's the River Wheel Aerialist. So Joakim does have both of the flyers that are on the board right now, which is fairly relevant. Also, Joakim has profitable blocks with Aerialist on each of the Poya's creatures, but I believe Poya has a Sandblast in hand.
Yeah, I think I saw one as well. So if that is the case, Poya can probably attack. So what is draining?
Yeah. So 10-25 here, and most of those have just been.
That was a nice manifest.
Very nice. So here we see the occasional upside of actually hitting something, and here we see the Woolly Loxodon, probably the best of the vanilla morphs. Just a huge 6/7 elephant that's very hard to deal with.
Yeah, one of the best concept arc here.
Absolutely.
And here's just a 4/4 manifest.
So, and he manifests Will of the Naga, which is unfortunately not an elephant. So, yeah, Joakim is very far behind here. With that 2/2 being upgraded into a 6/7, he doesn't really have any profitable blocks anymore.
Yeah, and he's still like draining and keep doing that.
And Poya still has the Sandblast in hand, I believe.
Yeah.
So Joakim is taking quite heavy fire right now.
So now he just
attacks with everything. So we may see an activation on the Horde Chief right now.
So
putting all here we go. Putting all the creatures on the elephant. No, on the Armament Core.
Yeah,
so he's going for
probably lethal anyway, isn't it?
Yes. So there's only a single white mana. Yeah. There's the handshake. So yeah, correctly identifying the lethal, and there's the Will of the Naga revealed at the end of the game.
And that was 1 minute left of the round.
Yeah.
So just 1 minute left. Poya takes this game.
Yeah.
2-1.
And we never really saw the Doom Blast in all of the 3 games.
Yeah, he didn't need it.
No.
To win that game.
No, Poya's deck looks really, really strong.
So what do you think about his chances making this to the top 8 draft?
I think they're spectacular. I think he has bombs, he has removal, he has early defense, and he's also a very, very strong player in the field.
Yeah, he has been like a old school player coming back to this game, like perhaps 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
Traveling around a little bit on the Grand Prix circuit and
trying
to get back on the Pro Tour.
Yeah,
because he's been playing on the Pro Tour a couple of times, I believe.
Oh, I wouldn't know. But he is a very strong player in this field, particularly, and certainly one of the favorites to top 8 even before the tournament started. Yeah. And seeing him with this really spectacular pool, just really solid. I particularly admire how he has such a spectacular late game without stretching his mana base, which we've seen quite a bit in the field for the most part, that people get quite greedy with their tricolor splash.
Yeah, but I think we did see both players like play with not much of mistakes there.
No.
A really stable game playing for both of the players. So
yeah, Joakim also a fairly capable player in the field.
He did what he could there, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, since it's just it's almost time out there as well, I think.
Yeah.
So I think we're heading either it's a commercial or we're going to show you the outside tournament scene for a little while and have a little pause until the next round.
Yeah.
This is round 5,
yeah,
isn't it? Yes, round 5. So we'll be back in just a few minutes for round 5.